We are back in the building for another great episode of Crush Mics. I am your host, Corey Buckets, along with my next host, Jessero. Jessero, what's going on, man?
Glad to be here. Always a pleasure to see you, my fan. How are you?
Man, I am cool and kicking it, caking and excited about the wrap up of this NBA season. You got all the tankers who we no longer have to talk about or see until June draft time.
Get out of here.
Got the Knickerbockers, who we are greatly supporting. We can finally see what they're gonna do, and we don't have to hear everybody denying every possible win that they have. I believe the Knicks at this point could beat the all Satan squad, and they would still say, you know what? That team just they didn't bring it that night. Like they played against a team full of devils. Are you serious? Like this was for mankind saving souls. They won, and it still means nothing to the people. So I digress, man. I digress. I digress. You had a whole lot of hot topics going on over there, man. What's going on in the woo world in New York these days, man?
First off, the weather has just been disrespectful. We go from bringing out your freshest spring gear to the next day having to dig out your sweater.
Oh man, listen, man. I think the East Coast has just had trash weather. I think from probably New York all the way down to Florida, it's just been a cold front, and then you get this random heat out of nowhere. I think that's been the case with a lot of places on the East Coast. I don't know what's going on, man. A lot that along with the gas prices being a gajillion dollars. I don't even listen, man. We are in a lot of people like to say we're in the last days. I don't believe so. I just believe we're in the cash days where everything costs.
100%. You better have your cake up.
Listen, it costs to breathe these days. I believe if they could charge us for air, they would.
Oh, I got that premium.
Listen, that is what I'm saying. My car takes premium. Listen, I wish I had a car that took regular gas at this point. Will you pull up to the tank and it says $6 a gallon? Listen, man, it's so hard to say goodbye to yesterday. I remember when I first started driving, you could literally put $10 in your tank and go somewhere.
We used to just drive to drive.
Right.
We didn't have a destination.
You know what you just said? That is a very interesting thing you just said. There was a point in time where we would get in the car and drive
I used
until
to drive from Long Island to South Side to pick you up, and then we would just drive to another borough. Maybe we would pick up someone, maybe not.
maybe we just go over there and just hang out or just waste gas on the way to nowhere. Like
That was part of the adventure.
that is not going on right now, ladies and gentlemen. Nobody has the currency, the resources to just waste time just traveling with gas, the price that it is right now, man. This is astronomical, man. So how you feeling about these games today, man? You got it looks like the Celtics are playing the Bulls tonight. You got the T-Wolves versus the Trailblazers. You got the Knicks and the 76ers. Pelicans and Heat. Pacers and Nets. How you feeling about these games? Do you think any of these are even worth watching tonight?
I'm excited to see everyone's bench. I mean, if you want to see six man of the year candidates and you want to see Towel Boy shine, this is your game. But if you haven't checked in on any of your family or any of your friends, this is your night to dial those phone numbers. Go
Ah!
check in on your homeboy or homegirl you haven't seen in a minute because this is a lot of chance for ACLs and ankle sprains and all other freak injuries because we're going to see a lot of minutes for people who have not gotten to playing time all year long, and not those G League people who deserve shine.
Listen, tell them. Not those G League people who deserve shine, or the dude who's been on 30-10 days that got him to the close of the season, and he's playing for his American professional basketball life right now. If he does not make this team, there's somebody that will end up playing with J. Cole. What's the name of the team again?
Shout out to the Monkey Kings.
Shout out to the Monkey Kings. If you do not play well right now, if you are on the bottom, unless your last name is Antetokounmpo, if your last name is Antetokounmpo, don't worry about it. Wherever your brother lands, it will be a safe cushion landing for you as well. I have never seen a person get their entire family on a basketball team to actually play. Is this unprecedented? They say nepotism. What do you even call that?
I mean, that's just the gift. Because it's one thing to get one on, but to get both brothers on multiple contracts. And we don't even know if they're like nice guys or not. I don't know if they tip the massage and towel people come holidays and stuff.
I would listen, man. I've seen a lot of videos in Thanasis. I think Thanasis is lightweight, a star off the court. He's decent on the court. I've seen him like windmill it, and he's pretty athletic off the court. But I think Thanasis might be one of the guys. Alex, I don't know. Believe it or not, this was maybe 3 years ago. Giannis, Alex, and Thanasis came to South Jamaica. They were at Lincoln Park for the Nike New York versus New York high school tournament. Shiggy who does the comedy, he was there and doing all kinds of stuff. So when people say that Giannis tangibly more than likely wants to play for the Knicks, wants to be in New York, I believe it. I saw him with my own two eyes. Like, saw him with my own two eyes. He had very little security. He's very happy. He was excited. It was like they when coming to America when they went to church and they gave him the mic and he said then when they asked him what was going on, he said, "I'm just very happy to be here." Like that's how Giannis was when when talking. I said, "Ain't this nothing? You got the Milwaukee champ in New York." But I honestly wasn't thinking about him playing for the Knicks at that time. He was just there, and it was just good to see NBA star in South Jamaica. You said something though on the last pod that I have chopped up, looked at, researched. I don't know what you were following, but when I tell you it was beyond accurate, when you said that you saw things and read things that said the Knicks were trying every possible combination of lineup to see what was going to work. Boy, were you spot on. Like, that was an amazing analysis. I didn't hear anybody that covers the Knicks say that one time this season. And I watch pretty much all podcasts. Shout out to Knicks Fan TV, Knicks Film School, and everybody else. Ian Begley, who covers the Knicks greatly. My man Dex, who covers the Knicks on SNY. Like I said that to say I watch just about every piece of Knicks sports media. And nobody said that. How were you able to be so insightful on the main point that I think we all miss watching this next season?
Because I did not go to where everyone else went. I went to basically the Kings version of Kings Film School, and I went to Mike Brown's old stops, and I want to see what Kings fans and Warriors fans were saying about him, and I took that and combined that with what the Westchester Knicks were saying about him when they were when the Westchester team players were going up to New York during the season. Because remember, at the beginning of the year, they were bringing up Kevin McCulloch and all these other, joking around at the crib. We were calling it the inverse lineup of death. And it was basically, for people who don't get that reference, when Golden State had the lineup of death and stuff, it was basically the video game version of, like you never actually run this lineup in a, professional NBA game. But what is Mike Brown doing right now? These are all NBA talented people, but you don't do this, especially in October and November. But
Right.
he was running this out and it was working. And and now come forward, 6 months later, all these guys know how to play with each other. And come playoff time, it's not going to be like, all right, now what does Mo like to do come boxing one? Is Tyler ever, actually ran this pick and roll? And yeah, all these guys are familiar with each other.
Yeah. Yeah, no, no, seriously. And I think um it's kind of diabolical because Jalen Brunson even looks like a better pass playmaker. Like he's always been a dominant, clutch scoring playmaker. But from the standpoint of pass playmaking, he's looked a lot more comfortable, I would say, like the last 5 or 6 games. Him and Cat have played that two-man game very well. I'm really impressed to see them play that two-man game because everybody kept on saying, well, they haven't run the pick and roll, the pick and pop all year long. Like, how do you have an all-league player? Carl Anthony Towns thrived off a pick and roll. How don't you? And I gotta say, I believe they didn't want to oversaturate us like the fans in Utah when they had Karl Malone and what was my man
Stockton.
John Stockton. And they're doing this punk behind pick and roll for 97% of the game. Effective, but how fun was that for a fan base to sit there for 48 minutes and watch Karl Malone come from the box?
Yeah,
He
and the
ran
rest of the team, and that's why Jeff Hornacek would get bored, and he couldn't always make the shot because now he wasn't in his one spot if the guys weren't doing a top over rotation.
right.
So,
So I definitely believe the pick and roll is it's an option, but I don't think that that should be your whole offense in the NBA. We're talking
correct, and
about
we're these are all professionals that have been running their own teams and have the ability to take over and defer.
right, right, right. And what you just said is key for the Knicks when you say that Michael, I believe it was just a year, I could be wrong, it might have been 2 years, where he was in Brooklyn and he was the man. He's averaging 20 points a game or better. And now when he comes to the Knicks, he's back to his role in Phoenix, which he was effective, don't get it twisted. A corner boy. But that has to be boring at some point in the game where it's I'm running to a spot, running to a spot, running to a spot, as opposed to when you look at the Golden State Warriors, it's constant motion.
Mm-hmm.
They know who primarily should get the greater majority of the shots if they're open. But if other people get open, they don't not get them the ball in those spots if they know they're effective. And I think that's what we saw these last few games is that everybody that's gotten the ball has been effective and been able to move around. And I believe that that just makes guys want to play more defense. Who wants to play deep? Listen, you could be playing pickup at LA Fitness. If you're running up and down and you're the big man, grabbing rebounds, blocking shots, outletting, and nobody ever passes you the ball, at some point you're going to stop playing defense. The paint is going to be wide open. I think that's what Carl Anthony Towns' issue was in the beginning of the year. What do you think about Carl Anthony Towns in transition from the Knicks to the Timberwolves? Do you think there was a great drop off, or do you feel that the Knicks have used him into his greatest ability so far?
Um, I don't know if he knows what his greatest ability is so far
Mm,
because he has such a like almost like a Swiss Army set of skills.
mhm.
And he's never like really been in a situation where everything has been on Cat. This is what we need you to do every single night because he always has such a plethora of skills around him, whether it is, Jalen, whether it was a young Ant. Like it's never
Mhm.
actually always just fallen onto him because of all of his like crazy situations. And again, we're not talking about someone who's in his third year in the league. We're talking about someone who's almost a decade in, who's going to the Hall of Fame,
Right,
regardless of what happens this year or the next 5 years. So
right.
when you come in that mindset already, like what else do you want the man to do? Now you come and throw in all the expectations of New York basketball, you know, and then you got actual performance measures. You got someone, and then you got a Mitch Robinson who in 20 minutes is going to give you old school center mentality, which is not Cat's game.
Not
So you're asking him to do two different things every time, and he's never going to make half the fan base happy regardless. So
right.
going back to your actual question, Cat has to do what Cat has to do, which makes no sense, when you look at that grammatically. I'm sorry for everyone.
No,
But,
wait, no,
you know,
that's very insightful and it's true. But the makeup of this roster, it seems that they get the most out of Mitchell Robinson when Mitchell Robinson plays 20, 25, 30 minutes tops. If you start Mitchell Robinson and you're trying to play him 35, 40 minutes, I think he's hurt after 3 games.
agreed. You're asking way too much.
And Cat, by definition, when you saw him from when he was younger to now, he's not a paint protector. He's not a five. He's a four. But when you have guys that are like 6'5", 6'6", playing power forward, it kind of slides to 6'10", 6'11" guy now to make him look like he was a for real five, where I think the whole time the biggest issue with them is that you needed this guy that just block. You needed who Mitchell Robinson is for longer stretches of the game with Cat. And I think you see Minnesota Cat a little bit more. But I think in recent time, he's figured out I can't play the finesse game here. I'm going to have to get my hands dirty and really be a guy that's gonna grab rebounds, get the 50-50s, hit open shots, but the open shot might not always mean that I'm shooting 12 threes a game. I gotta go downhill sometimes. I gotta play the matchup sometimes. So I think, just my personal opinion, and you can let me know what you think about this. I think this stint in New York has made him a better, a more all-around player. I think he's more versatile, like you said, Swiss Army knife. I think we can see that now. Where I think prior to this season, he was more like the 3-point big man who you said you probably would like to see him on the box, but he shoots the three at 40 a clip, so let him go.
I completely agree. He had to develop a Julius Randle game, ironically,
Hmm.
this year.
Right,
He had to, like you said, get down and dirty, especially when Mitch had those injuries. And,
right.
as much as we love Big Mo's still a rookie. So he's got so much to learn. So when he was out there as a five, you could slide Cat to a four, but come playoff time, reality is Big Mo is probably not going to see any time. So we have to, either have the combo of Mitch and Cat out there, but Cat at the end of the day has to decide: is he going to be going down there and throwing out some elbows and getting those rebounds,
Mhm.
or you're gonna have Josh Hart step up and get those extra 3 rebounds a game, which we know Josh can.
Oh yeah, without a question. Without a question. Without a question. I'm gonna stop right. You mentioned something interesting. What do you think about Mo Diawara? He seems like he could be a very good NBA project. I like his ceiling to be similar, and don't throw the tomatoes at me for this. He reminds me a lot of a Pascal Siakam kind of guy. Like, I could see him progressively working on his game and developing into that role if he ever gets the minutes. The issue is, I don't think we're ever going to give him the minutes for him to develop into that. I think, if anything, if we were to progressively make trades, he'll probably develop into that on another team, which is unfortunate. What do you think about the progression of Mo Diawara and how we've seen some flashes of greatness, but not enough confidence in the rookie to give him those serious rotational minutes late in the season?
Like you said, great flashes, great potential. Um, I also think though, with this new CBA going forward, they actually might keep him and let someone else go because of the rookie deal that he's on. It may be actually beneficial to keep him there and to ride out this salary that's way more beneficial to his team and let someone go.
Mm, that was insightful. Who do you think, if you could just crapshoot right now, who do you think would possibly be a person that they would let go in hopes to keep Diawara and build out the roster in those last few spots?
Unfortunately, I could see them letting go of Deuce in a trade package.
Mm, I could see that. Unfortunately, I could see that. I could see that. It's just like you said, a trade package.
Mm-hmm.
It would have to be something where the Knicks are getting another 3 and D guy in the mix of that. Because I think a lot of teams are interested in the skill set that Deuce has. If I didn't see what Quickly did in Toronto and RJ, I probably would have get be against trading him. But because I saw there's some guys that we get that I think have benefited from playing in our system, that if they go somewhere else and they have a bigger role, a lot of times you don't see what you thought they were going to do if they got more minutes in the garden. And I think Deuce might be like that. If look, listen, if pairing Deuce and some other people in the summer can turn us a little bit more fortune, I'm all the way with it. I'm always on the fence with the Carl Anthony Towns Giannis thing. I'm gonna be honest because I believe in the beginning of the season that we were trying to run up and down, and Carl Anthony Towns does not have the physical capability to do so. And I think if you swap him for Giannis, you would see Jalen Brunson doing things with that ball, going up and down, penetrating, finding an open man, throwing the ball ahead that you don't and can't see now because Cat's not beating anybody down the floor. Like, he's gonna be in the flow with everybody else, but he's not gonna beat everybody down the floor. And I think is solid as he's been, it's all about fit. I think the fit with Giannis, if he's healthy, may be a little bit greater sometimes, but the only reason why I push back, like I know, sometimes we can't hit an ocean with a pebble. And having a guy like Cat who can randomly stretch the floor and hit 4 or 5 threes in a crucial spot, Giannis is not doing that. Like, He's not.
Correct. And also, we got to look at the potential wear and tear that's on Giannis's body at this point. You
Right.
know, we don't know if any of these leg issues were actual leg issues or if they were just negotiating issues. He's
Right.
over 30, and his entire game has been predicated on running downhill and getting to the cup. And after 30, that ability goes away. And it doesn't gradually go away. It just disappears overnight, like a quarterback's, throwing ability.
You're right. You're right. That's very insightful. And that's what's crazy is that he could be, what was he this year, like 27-9 on a down year. And then next year have a nagging something. We trade for him. He's hurt most of the time, and then when he plays, he doesn't have that same athletic explosion. And you're looking at him, he's a shell of himself, and Cat is in Milwaukee or wherever, averaging 30 and 12. I I just don't want that for us.
Correct, because how many times have that's been the Knicks story since 2000, trading for the superstar that was 2 years past that prime?
Right. So this is a telltale year. Like this will determine, I believe, everybody's future on that roster. And I'm just gonna hate to see it if they lose anywhere earlier than the finals because Mike Brown has already, I don't care what nobody says about last year, because this is a different season with different pieces on the roster. I can't not give him credit and say he didn't do a good job this year, that he just inherited a good team and had a better record than they did last year, and just miraculously had the best record in the history of the Knicks as a first year head coach. Do you think anything that Mike Brown actually did this year has contributed to the change in what the win totals and losses and everything have been for the Knicks?
Oh, definitely. He brought in a different mentality. He built on the foundation that Thibs laid down. He can't deny that. Thibs corrected a ship that was sinking. We gave him all his props and we thank him for everything he did. But
Mhm.
that ship was only going so far. And
Right.
now, Mike has taken that ship as now, start steering it back towards land because we were just, going around in the ocean with no direction whatsoever. And
Hmm.
now we're a respectable franchise. We're hearing free agents talking about coming to the Knicks again. And it's not just, media talk.
Right. Right.
We're consistent, and the most important thing was those minute rotations. Our team's fresh. We didn't have people running up insane minutes numbers and stuff. That shouldn't be a goal that everyone's at their maximum minutes, especially
Right.
when we don't have a team full of rookies. We want to save people's legs come for the playoffs.
I agree. I agree. And what you said was very insightful because it does speak to progression rather than just saying, all right, he pretty much followed the formula that Tibbs had and just kept it going. And the guys, because that's what they're used to, they acquiesce. And now you see this success of a few access of games, but nothing dramatic. Yeah, I I I'm eager to see where we land. But in transition, you said something very interesting the other day, and I want to touch the topic. Does the NBA need expansion or team relocation? As we look at, who was it? They're talking about moving. What teams were they talking about moving? Was it? No, I know they're not moving OKC. Okay, they're trying to build a team in Vegas
Mm-hmm.
and Seattle, but I don't believe that would actually mean a relocation of any franchise. But they have been talking about a possible relocation of the Grizzlies. And this isn't actually a formal conversation. It seems like amongst the players, some analysts, some casualists have been saying Memphis is a tough market.
Oh
It's
yeah.
it's a tough market in terms of tourism. I've heard from entertainers, rappers, to athletes, say the accommodation of hotels is not is less than subpar. What are you thinking about the expansion and whole team relocation conversation?
Oh, there's a few different parts to it. If you were an owner, you're one of 30, and you're getting 1/30th of a couple of $1 billion, and then two more people want to show up, and now you began 1/32nd
Mm,
of that. Do you want to split that pie up between two more people? Most likely, the answer is no. Despite all the new revenues coming in, that's still you giving up more of your money. And
right.
most of these people are all about the money and not sharing in the least bit of it, and they'll do everything they can to exploit every last penny.
Right. No,
So,
seriously.
so just on the money aspect, I can't see a lot of these owners voting to actually do this expansion thing. So I see a lot of the talk when it comes to this expansion thing, they're actually just exploring the idea of whether the other owners would actually be okay with the idea of expansion. And then
Well,
as far as you said with relocation, we got to look at the franchises themselves. Are the franchises failing because of lack of attendance, lack of city support, or are you just a bad owner? Like we got to look at, have you been a bad franchise for 30 years? Are you not putting the resources into your team? Are you getting, second-rate coaches? Like we want all the accountability in the world for the coaches, players, but for the actual people running the organization, there's never any accountability for what they call them now, governors.
right.
We need to talk about that.
Right. No, 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 that's serious because sidebar, but same conversation. I still can't make sense of the move from New Jersey to Brooklyn. They've had some halfway subpar seasons. They've put some superstars in Brooklyn in some spaces, but they're back in the lottery in the same situation that I think they would be in New Jersey. Their attendance is putrid, even in one of the five boroughs. That stadium is very hard to get to if you drive. Um, it really to me has worked out to be a better deal for the WNBA and the Liberty and all the ancillary events that you could have for that stadium at the Barclays than the Nets. This is why I don't know if relocation always works for existing franchises. It, I know they do all the market research that they can possibly do, but why isn't anybody saying Brooklyn was not a success? And when we look at maybe financially, of course, they're making more money off of merchandise in Brooklyn than they were in New Jersey. We don't even have to look at those statistics. But when we talking about the quality of the game, Jason Kidd and Kenyon Martin and Vince Carter, they were in the playoffs every single year. They were a competitive team every single year in New Jersey. Granted, they were giving tickets away, but they're still giving tickets away. What was the point of that relocation? So when people talk about Memphis, if you could name any market that you think Memphis would be good in other than Memphis, where do you think could use either a new team or a relocation of team? Maybe if you swap two teams, possibly. But
Oh, I can move them right now. Kansas City,
hmm, what would be the allure in Kansas City?
huge fan base. They sell out all their home games, and there's not competition for other entertainment.
Hmm. But Kansas City has been baseball and football in recent times. Do you think that fan base of people would welcome an NBA team to Kansas City?
If Oklahoma can support the Thunder,
This is true. This is true. This
If
is
you could put all those hockey teams in Texas and Florida,
this is very true. That's very true. I have to give you the full credit on it, on that. I never thought about that from that angle. The the challenging thing to me about relocation is that you brought up another good point about the NBA. Are they educating their younger fans on the expansion teams and what the teams were prior? So when you look at the OKC team that was once the Seattle Supersonics, there's no for real history behind the Supersonics. Like there's nobody that's greatly talking about the Supersonics. So now as you try to transition and bring them to back to Seattle, it's almost like a new franchise because I know the younger generation um did not catch Sean Kemp versus Gary Payton, Detlef Shrimp. Like they missed that. So when you bring the Supersonics, if you do to back to Seattle, there's going to pretty much be the same reaction to me outside of the people from the market and the older people as the Vegas team because these kids don't know the Supersonics existed. How does the NBA, this is a very good question. How does the NBA do a better job with showing appreciation for the players and teams prior, along with celebrating and showcasing the current talent? Where's the median in that? Because I think that's the challenge that they face now. Why you have so many conversations of LeBron's better than Jordan. Um, the, Kyrie Irving's better than Allen Iverson. Like these conversations come to me because there hasn't been a good enough transition from one generation to the other in respects to who's done what and who all of them progressively have made the league. What do you think about that?
oh, I agree, and that's 100% the responsibility of the league. And they have failed the fans miserably when it comes to educating them. And
Mhm.
they have us captivated for what was average broadcast 2 to 3 hours,
Right.
and they do not take any advantage of that. I can tell you about 10 car commercials, an air conditioner, a TV, and every other form of advertisement. And then maybe I get one trivia question at the second quarter, and then I'll get the answer to the trivia question to the start of the fourth quarter. And if I miss said trivia question, I can't go online to find out the answer to the trivia question, which is even more insulting.
Right.
So, unless you have the financial means to go to a stadium and have the ability to stay at the stadium for an hour and a half before or after a game, oh, no, wait, they kick you out as soon as the game's over. So,
Right.
unless you're able to go to a stadium to walk around and learn the history on your own and then to teach it to your family and loved ones, there's no way there's any education going down. And
No
that's
way.
their biggest issue. They have all the time in the world on the jumbotrons to teach you about the education while you're at home instead of showing us, and they could have the ability to do the split screens because they interrupt, half the games showing me a commercial I don't care about. So you could
Right.
also be, the way they used to do pop-up videos and all this other, the running ticker. You could show me, information about, legends from the past, or
Mm,
how Kyrie's, on his third triple double in 6 games, which hasn't been done since 1979. Blah blah blah.
mm.
We have the most information ever with the greatest technology ever, and they just choose not to do it. So again, that goes back to the league choosing not to educate the fan base.
That was insightful. I never even thought about that. That is something that every telecast that covers the game, their staff could get together some fun fact franchise things for every single game as long as these histories for these teams have been that are applicable to a lot of the spaces that the teams are in. Because what do they always say? The older people, there's nothing new under the sun.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of times where teams will be hitting streaks, breaking past records. If you could get that education and insight as a casual or younger fan that doesn't remember the time when the team was, or you just weren't around, and to get those progressive facts throughout the game, I believe, like you said, I believe there will be way more appreciation of the past and current generation. That's one thing, not our own horn, so to speak, the proverbial horn, pause. But that's one thing you have to give James Dolan credit for. You see New York Knicks of all ages, different stages in the Garden, every single game in the Garden. And that to me brings about conversations. Because if you're a New York Knicks fan and you see these games, you see these guys, you see during the game when they flash the cameras on them or when they talk to them, you want to know who they are. If they don't give you enough history during the game, which usually Walt Frazier, if they pan the camera on somebody, it doesn't matter who it is. It could be Bill DeBusschere. It doesn't matter. Walt Frazier is going to give you his an in-depth analysis of what he remembers of their time playing for the Knicks. I think more teams need to try to key on that, and I think the NBA needs to try to encourage teams to bring back the older players more often.
100%. It just can't be relying on the intro to the games to talk about the heated rivalry.
Right,
Because everyone's not going to catch the intro to the game. And some people don't care about when the teams used to be good 30 years ago.
right.
But you have us now captive for 2 hours to give us that info and some even better stats.
Listen, man, there is a whole fan base of people that are looking to be entertained. And they don't necessarily even have a format as to how they're looking to preferably be entertained. They just want to be entertained. And that's what disappoints me so much about All-Star Weekend now is that that's what that used to be about, which was we have to entertain the fans and show them appreciation for spending all that money for these tickets, spending your time watching these games, supporting these players, buying all the merchandise, the t-shirts, the sneakers, the shorts, all this stuff that you're buying. This is our way of showing that we appreciate you and going above and beyond. And now this generation, I believe, in conjunction with our conversation, because the dude who played for the Bulls, because you don't see anybody of the past on average in the Chicago stadium, then you might get an occasional Michael Jordan or occasional Scotty, occasionally, maybe. But because you don't see those guys regularly, I believe this is why you get the guys that you have now that come in and they play with no pride. And the games come down to, well, who are we playing? Is it televised? Are we making playoffs? Is it a contract year? Do I like the coach? Can I get traded? Like it's so many options before let me just hoop. Like that's where we're at, which I think is very disheartening and disappointing with the NBA because there's no other sport that's like that. The NFL puts on every time, the MLB puts on every time. Those guys know there's no way and there's no bandwidth for a fan base for you to decide that you're not playing games just because. Like just because. Like the other night, Jaylen Brown didn't play. There's not going to be an investigation of this, as we know, but they decided he just wasn't going to play. They said Achilles, he played the very next night. And then Tatum sits the next night. So was this a coincidence? No, this was planned. Tatum, you're coming back to the Garden. This is the first game that you've had in the Garden since you've been injured. You have to play in this game. This will get your confidence back up. Jalen, let him play so he can get all the shots and he can get that all the jitterbugs and everything in the Garden back. Jalen, oh, okay, cool. Your Achilles hurt. Okay, cool. Next game against the Pelicans. Jalen, you will get 1,000 shots, and Tatum, you sit down. Like this stuff used to be unheard of. Unheard of. It did like I don't even like growing up, I don't even remember who was not making the playoffs until the playoffs actually happened because they played extremely hard until the end of the season. Like,
They used to have to do math problems that, like, if these two teams lost, or if this one won, and we wouldn't have to know the Midnight Sports Center. That's
right,
how tight these races were. Not that these teams were already done a week ago.
right, right. So it's
But there's no repercussions, and they're incentivized to lose.
they are greatly incentivized to lose. And that is what I think they are trying to eliminate now. Um, the incentive to lose. Like, who came up with the concept that if you're the worst team, you deserve the best player? Contrary to what people think, and I know I'm going to get tomatoes for this, I believe it should be just opposite. You didn't win anything. If having the best player or one of the best players out of college is a reward, why are you rewarding the team who intentionally lost and made people turn away from the game when it came on national TV? Or you can't even put these people on national TV. So that means they literally cut into your bottom line because you shouldn't have, to me, a whole night of NBA games and none of the games can be on marquee channels and marquee time periods because you don't have one team that night. You got 8 games and not one star is playing. Like, that makes no sense to me. Along with the fact that, and you can tell me how you feel about this, I don't think they should have an NBA draft every year. I think they should sit out some years. If listen, I think honestly, I think they should do away with the draft. I think when guys get out of college, it should be a free agent signing for who has the ability, who has the space, and who needs the talent. Because what's happening right now to me, and this is professional sports straight across the board, because you get a draft pick as a team every year, you're forced to draft somebody, which means the best people technically in the world are not always making a roster. There's a there's a political aspect to a lot of these guys that play on a team. There's no way to me that an NBA player should not be able to make the greater majority of their open shots. You got guys on a roster who can't dunk a ball. You got guys on, you don't have to have that. This is the highest level of professional basketball. Everybody on the roster should be able to dunk. Why not? Why not? It's about entertainment. It's about the highest level. So we're saying these are the best. If you Google it right now, they say professional basketball players are 99.1% better than the rest of the population. Like we talk about Giannis and we talk about his brothers, salute to them. We're not going to say that they're part of the 99.1%. Like you just can't tell me this. What do you think about the whole drafting process and the tanking and all that stuff?
I completely agree with you. Like, we've done it, it's run its course, and it has not rewarded in a positive way. It incentivizes teams to lose, make bad decisions, and keep rewarding mediocrity. And these are all, all these owners, governors, whatever you got to call them these days, all pride themselves as being captains of industry, hiring the best and brightest and smartest people. But at the end of the day, they all want a handout from the commissioner to be like, oh no, we can't run our organization. So please, weight the lottery, in our favor, because we keep screwing up and we can't make the right decisions. But then you got other franchises that have no problem picking in the 20s, and they still seem to be able to make the right moves and draft the right players and make trades and run competent franchises. So at the
Okay.
end of the day, who's the real problem, you or the player?
Right.
And you're punishing these young people coming into the league that are on these bad situations, get one horrible contract, and then that's their whole career. And when I graduated college, I wasn't forced to go to a job that I didn't want because they drafted me because of all my skills. I got to choose who I want to go to, and that's how the rest of the world's supposed to work. I don't know why we only do this for this one specific industry.
Listen, that's a home run point right there. That is a home run point right there. And I think that's the part that needs to be exercised and talked about more. This is an occupation, and you're getting training to do this prior. I could argue, or one could argue, this is the issue with John Morant and Zion. You put two talented guys in respect to Memphis, respect to New Orleans. This is no knock on the people or the actual environment. I'm talking about the structures of the teams. You put them on these horrible franchises, and then when they don't flourish properly and consistently, we start with all these sidebar things about what they're doing off the court as the reasoning as to why they're not doing what they could do. And realistically, it's because you stuck him in Memphis. You put him in New Orleans. Why did you do that? Like, there was no plan there from these franchises to do anything other than get ticket sales and jersey and merchandise sales and everything else, get new contracts. There was no plan for these teams to actually
None.
build around these players progressively, have plans for the players individually for their individual progress. Because how many summers did they go into the offseason saying Zion is overweight?
Wemby's still on a minute restriction. Like the Spurs have had a plan for him since before he was drafted. Like you said, these other cats were just drafted to sell jerseys and be the savior. But again, what plan did you have?
Right,
I
right.
didn't see you guys hire nutritionists. I didn't, any of your concerns, which may have been founded or not founded, you still did not have an infrastructure set up to guarantee massive success for what you said was going to be your franchise player.
Right, right.
And again, that's not an 18 to 20-year-old's fault.
No.
You're supposed to be this genius organization that's hired the best lawyers, the captains of industry, and everyone else. But again, there's no responsibility or anything that falls onto you, and now you're clamoring for the highest draft pick.
And it's everything is left on the player, the player's family, the player's agent, and no one in these organizations are taking accountability. How many times have you seen and you're not going to see this, by the way. How many times have you seen a GM or player president of an organization say, it's not so and so's fault? We failed them as an organization. We didn't set the infrastructure around them to be successful. We were intent with doing progressive things as an organization, but we didn't factor in the progression of these individual players to get the most out of it. Like when you never hear anybody say that.
Never, because then that doesn't allow you to become the coach at your alma mater.
And be the now GM
Yes.
who's getting owner money at whatever school you're at now. Like,
Look at Woj and St. Bonnie's. Come on. You were the number one tweeter. What did you do to that program?
Listen, and then Saint, I don't know, you might know. I don't believe St. Bonaventure made the tournament.
No,
So
because again, you were the number one tweeter. If I'm a 17-year-old coming to that program and the on the border of Pennsylvania, that had nothing to do with running a box and one. Like,
I'm so you're telling me whoever the coach is, no disrespect to St. Bonaventure, but I'm not relevant enough with the program to know who the head coach is. So you're telling me Duke, North Carolina, the Blue Bloods are recruiting me, knocking my door down, excuse me, and what's going to make me go to St. Bonaventure's because the Woj bomb
the guy my dad knows about.
for NBA trades.
Yeah,
Not even the guy that my dad knows can break out highlights on. Like the dude who was doing an instrumental in NBA trades. Politics, man.
mm-hmm.
It's politics at its finest, man. Listen, man, we're going to have our rap madness bracket conversation in our next episode. That is a robust conversation that I don't feel like we want to chop off.
No, it needs all the time to breathe.
We need the time to curate the possible options and give the people what they really want to see in output. And I think we had some people who wanted to be a part of the conversation that weren't able to attend today. So I said, I want to have the most robust conversation that we can. Whoa, pause. That was crazy. I want to have the best conversation that we could possibly have about the this whole rap madness. And I think it's going to be a really fun exercise and conference because we got from 88 all the way until 2026. There are different matchups in there. There's a female bracket, and then when the females beat each other up, they're at the males. So it's amazing that everybody has to get out of their region, East, West, Midwest, South. Then you females get out there. And then you see who the champions are when you get it down from 64 to 32 to 16 to 8 to 4 to 2. Like, yeah, no, I think this is going to be, and because we are music aficionados, this isn't a, for my youngins who are not abreast on this, there was a magazine called The Source that used to rate albums, hip hop albums, from 1 to 5 with a mic system. 5 being the best supreme album that you could possibly have. And based upon what they were saying at the time, it was a myriad of things that they judged these projects on: lyricism, content, production, anything you possibly think of. When we're doing this rap madness contest, that's what we're going to be doing. Nobody's going to be on there and progress based upon having the most album sales. There were people that could have been on that list if it was based upon album sales, but you had to be able to have bars, make good songs, and would have sold enough albums where the casual would know who you were, how you made this list. So it's going to be a good conversation. I know it's going to be a good conversation. But yes, man, as always, Jesse Rowe, man, it's been a great one, man. It's been a great one. I hope you're able to catch all the NBA games today, and as we get to excited and ready for the playoff run for the Knicks, we just gonna be in waiting with bated breaths, hoping that this season turns out the way we envision it to or hope it does in the predictions. Listen, man, if the Knicks do not go at least to the finals this year, it's gonna be a whole lot of fans on suicide watch, is all I gotta say. Like, I can't see it no other way. Like it's when your owner gets on national TV and says, "Yeah, we're gonna make it to the finals this year." It should more than likely be OKC in the finals. We should beat them. I don't think that helped.
Not in the least bit, but at the same time, we got expectations that are, legit.
They
So
are.
we haven't been in this position in, 2 decades.
They don't seriously.
You know,
Seriously. Since Patrick Ewing was missing wide open finger rolls in the lane.
I
Right.
mean, there's pipe dreams and pipe head dreams.
On that note, we are going to wrap it up.
Take it to the top, baby.